From dunking your face in a bowl of Saratoga water to Nordic-inspired dolls made in China, every August when I make this video, I realize how much trends vary year to year. Trends, whether you hate them or love them, help us understand what we value most in our culture at any given time. Sometimes new trends are great, other times, not so much. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Drew. What it do? It's nice to meet you. Let's talk about the best and the worst trends for 2025. As a disclaimer, in no way is this video meant to punch down on your ideas or interest in fashion, media, or culture. If you disagree with my opinion, attack the idea, not the individual. And as you're watching this video, I would love to know what you think about the trends that took over in 2025. The best place to start in order to understand the landscape for 2025 trends is by dissecting what happened in footwear. And by most estimations, including mine, the trendiest shoe style of the year was flip-flops. Whether we're talking about the viral kitten heel flip-flops worn by Hailey Bieber, or we're talking about the sold out the row flip-flops, the flip-flop has been one of the most confusing trends of all 2025. Confusing because how can an item that's so ordinary be considered a trend? In warmer climates like Brazil and India, and even in warmer climates of the Western world, flip-flops are a mainstay for dressing in the heat. But what's happened now is that high fashion and niche fashion brands are reinterpreting flip-flops for a different type of consumer. The Gimaguas Havaianas collab, Tabby flops, and Oralee flops are all examples of flip-flops existing in spaces that they've never existed in before. And to me, these flip-flops are some of the coolest flip-flops I've ever seen, full stop. And I know for a lot of people, hearing the idea that flip-flops are trendy just sounds a bit ridiculous. But wait until you see some of the items further down this list. In the sneaker world, hybrid sneakers are the trendiest form of sneakers right now. It's interesting because in 2025, we've long departed from this era where one sneaker or one sneaker brand collaboration dominates the meta. When we're talking about shoes, the current cultural zeitgeist is polymorphic, meaning you have tastemakers in New York who like sneaker loafers or snowfers, and you have tastemakers in, let's say, London who like ballet flat Mary Jane sneakers, or whatever the f*** Miu Miu is doing. These hybrid sneakers, in my opinion, are one of the better trends for 2025. I can't talk about 2025 footwear and leave out one of 2025's hottest summer footwear item, the jelly sandal. Jelly sandals also had a serious moment this summer, and it'll be interesting to see how this style of shoe ages as time goes on. Now, the final ingredient that I want to add to the 2025 footwear section is the boots-only summer trend. If there's a lingering element from 2024 trends, then it's the popularity of football-themed sneakers. Shoes meant to imitate the look and feel of soccer cleats. But in the case of boots-only summer, there was a hashtag of TikTokers keen on keeping their cleats on their boots as opposed to just wearing an Adidas Samba. This was definitely one of the worst trends of the year in my opinion, but like many things in this age, it definitely made for attention-grabbing content. Overall, the footwear scene in 2025 kind of bored me. There was nothing that got me excited enough to engage with the new trending items. Maybe it's because I'm getting older, or maybe it has something to do with the fact that in previous years there were just more exciting trends. But what do you think? Was 2025 a dud year for shoe trends? Every quarter, global shopping platform List compiles data around how users interact with different brands on their website. And this list by list told a portion of the story of what were the most popular brands of 2025. Based on the data that I had accessed as per the recording of this video, Miu Miu slid to number 1, continuing to be the hottest brand in the world. The Row bumped up to number 6 in part due to their flip-flops. Ralph Lauren inched closer to the top 10 at number 11. We'll talk more about them later. And Birkenstock, a brand that had high trendability back in 2022, made its way into the top 20 in 2025. Lists like this tell a story of objective data and a bit of subjective preferences. Miu Miu might be a top brand, but if you aren't into fashion or you don't follow luxury, then you probably aren't aware of Miu Miu's influence. Kylie Jenner, Jan Wang Young, and Sweeney are some of their most noteworthy brand ambassadors. What I like to do when I look at data like this is I like to compare it to different periods of time. And so when you look at the data from 2024 that list compiled and compare it to 2025, you'll see some noticeable differences. Brands such as Coach, COS, and Birkenstock did not have the same gravity last year in 2024 as they do currently in 2025, which is an indication of updated consumer behavior around the products for these companies. For a brand like Coach, part of the story is the fact that they had a rebrand this year and they emphasized customization, which is something that people really enjoy when it comes to bags and bag charms and making things personalized for themselves. For Birkenstock, there's a lot of people who believe that their Paris runway show brought a lot of attention to the brand that just hadn't been seen in the last couple of years. Birkenstock has been on a fantastic tear in the 2020s, and I think that this moment revitalized interest for their offerings. My personal favorite brand on this list is Ralph Lauren. There is just no brand on earth that does Americana like Ralph does. Now, when you look at the top 20, are any of these brands that you currently shop at or that you pull references from or inspiration from when it comes to your styling? I'd be curious to know. Let me know. I think we can all agree that there were some really strange trends this year. And one of the strangest was Kendall Jenner's Hanes tank top moment. When Kendall Jenner wore a $2 Hanes tank top to Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, nobody could have predicted that a simple tank top would become a topic of trend conversation. But here we are, and boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to unpack. A lot of people have been whipped up into a frenzy over the journey of this trend. On one side, you have the camp who is excited to see something so inexpensive trending. And on the other side of the camp, you have the folks who are a bit outraged that the followers of this trend need permission from a multi-millionaire model in Kendall Jenner to buy a $5 Hanes tank top. Now, doom scrolling, brain rot, the idea of spending too much time on social media, it has only grown and grown and grown in 2025. So I have 4 brain rot social media trends that I think are the biggest or were the biggest brain rot social media trends this last year. Aura farming, the cool uncle or cool aunt videos, 100 men versus 1 gorilla debate, and the Saratoga water morning routine. You either know exactly what I'm going to talk about or have no idea what I'm going to talk about, which is perfect. Aura farming is a term used to describe a way in which to improve your coolness. Aura in the Chronically online context started to pick up traction in 2024 in response to making fun of Jason Tatum winning the NBA Finals. And there's also several other contexts where aura farming or just aura in general started to be memeified. Now, when I say aura farming in 2025, we're talking about a dance that was started by Rayan Arkandika, an 11-year-old from Indonesia. The manner in which he danced on top of this boat caught fire on social media and turned into a viral trend that was copied by hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions. Now, the cool aunt, cool uncle plan B videos are a kind of commentary on the current state of the world for aging Gen Zers and millennials. For a lot of Gen Z and millennials, they thought by the age of 27 or 29 that they would have certain life milestones already accomplished. But in reality, due to the global pandemic and economic uncertainty, a lot of their plans have changed, prompting a wave of videos highlighting the Plan B nature of life. Plan B being becoming the cool uncle or aunt. These videos depict late 20s and 30s adults focusing on career, traveling, and socializing as opposed to what is traditionally expected of adults around this age range. And then you have the 100 men versus 1 gorilla debate that still is unanswered to this day. Essentially, this debate focused on a fictitious brawl between 100 men and 1 gorilla. And there were simulations that were made, there were theorists and doctors that were asked, and animal scientists that were asked about this question. And of course, you had plenty of AI answers that were mixed in as well. It was just a really wonky time to be on the internet. Everything was about asking 100 men versus 1 gorilla. And last, there was a period of time when I was scrolling on my phone and I could not scroll more than 3 times without seeing Ashton Hall dump his face into a bowl of Saratoga water. When I think about this content, and this is no offense to Ashton Hall, it was incredibly popular, but what value did it bring? I think it was just entertainment for people, but people were obsessed to see this incredibly jacked guy go through his morning routine and all of these kind of ASMR sound effects. It was just a moment for 2025 doom scroll, chronically online, brain rot type of social media content. And not to say that there isn't something positive with having a morning routine or being into fitness and getting healthy. I just think the way that these videos were consumed, it was a viral moment for sure, several viral moments, and it defined internet culture partially for 2025. All of these trends are indicators for how internet culture has changed from 2024 to 2025, from 2023 to 2025. The reason why there's so many Plan B cool aunts and uncles is also a response to the decrease or the lowering of birth rates in a lot of Western developed nations. And when we talk about culture and economics and politics and the conversations that you have with your friends or at the dinner table, every single thing is connected. Birth rates are lower because more people are uncertain about the future. More people are in more debt than ever before. There is a housing crisis in every country in the world, it seems like. And part of the reason why these internet trends continue to pop up is because there's a loosening of connection to our physical environments, but there seems to be an ever growing and a constantly deepening connection to our digital environments. And so the comment sections, the forums, the Reddit pages, the YouTube video comments, all of these places are places where people are spending increasingly more time in. And as a result, what happens in these spaces does impact all of us in a uniquely modern and real way. What other wonky trends did you scroll across as you were scrolling in 2025? I know you scroll sometimes. Everyone scrolls. I scroll, you scroll, we all exist in these digital platforms, just like we exist in these physical ones. I almost forgot the performative male meme. The performative male meme was a series of videos meant to be intentionally ironic around the way certain men dress, act, and carry themselves in order to attract certain women. The symbols for this trend included things like matcha, wired headphones, and reading books in public. But the meme became a massive topic of conversation here in 2025 and highlighted questions such as, what does it mean to be a man, and is being performative harmful? I do plan to make an entire video about the performative male, so if you want to see that, be sure to subscribe. The biggest trend of 2025, without a doubt, were Labubus. If 2023 was the year of Barbie and 2024 was the year of Charlie XCX's Brat Summer and Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso, then 2025 was without a doubt the year of the Labubu, baby. The curious thing about Labubus is that the idea for them started a decade ago in the stories of Hong Kong illustrator Kai-Sing Lung. Lung pulled from Nordic mythology for the inspiration for his figures. And in 2019, Lung signed an exclusive licensing agreement with Pop Mart to sell and distribute physical plushies via a blind box strategy. Essentially, a blind box is a type of packaging that conceals the version of its contents, meaning that the buyer of the Labubu does not know which doll that they are purchasing until they open the package. The mechanics of blind boxes are deceptively simple yet psychologically addictive. And this element of gambling is a big reason people are obsessed with buying, unboxing, and consuming Labubus. When it comes to the Labubu trend, you also have to point to the fact that celebrity endorsement, the current fashion trends, having things as bag charms and using Labubus as bag charms, as well as just social media content are huge contributors to the success of these dolls. When I think about the mindset of the consumer, of someone who collects and who loves Labubus, I think about someone who is the modern rendition of what Bear Bricks were to Hypebeast in 2015, 10 years ago. But the difference with Labubus and something like a Bear Brick is that Labubus have a wider appeal because they're not as expensive, they're not as niche as Bear Bricks were. And as we begin to peel back the layers of the Labubu trend, one of the things that I find the most interesting is that Labubus are an example of another Southeast Asian product that the West can't get enough of. You also can't talk about the success of Labubus and not talk about the engineered exclusivity. Making certain Labubus exclusive has skyrocketed demand, creating a secondary marketplace for the dolls. Exclusive Labubus can resell for $1,000 plus easily, which creates an even greater incentive to buy the blind boxes with the hope to resale for profit. This might upset a lot of people, but I personally think that Labubus are one of the worst trends of 2025. To me, they feel like such a prime example of conspicuous consumption, or consumption with the goal to signal status. I'm not saying everyone who buys Labubus is like this, but I do think that the way that they are consumed speaks to a symptom of how our society uses consumerism to dampen deeper issues. Speaking of deeper issues, let's talk about the macro trends that were the most relevant to the culture for 2025. The uncertainty around tariffs created a lot of stress for business owners and consumers alike. And as a result, you had a lot of apprehension around the state of the zeitgeist. There's a noticeable difference in vibe from summer 2024 and summer 2025. In 2024, you had the Olympics, which was a really fun time. It was the first Olympics since the pandemic. Then you had Beyonce's album, Cowboy Carter, which was a lot of fun for a lot of people. You had Brat Summer, which had a whole slew of connotations, but it felt like a good time for a lot of people. You had Billie Eilish's album. You had Saltburn that came out at the end of 2023, but that highlighted the song Murder on the Dance Floor. And there was just a lot more fun and youthful and creative energy entering into the world in 2024. In some ways, 2024 felt like the world was back. You had a lot of people saying 2024 felt like 2016. And that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people, but there's definitely a vibe shift. And one of the biggest ones for fashion and culture has to be the conversation around tariffs and the uncertainty. The Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad may be the most controversial advertisement to air in the last 5 years. On January 23rd, American Eagle featured a campaign of ads on social media that many took offense with. This was that advertisement.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
The outrage came in the form of claims that the wordplay of genes and genes was a call-out reference to eugenics, which by definition is the practice or advocacy of controlled selective breeding of human populations, as by sterilization, to improve the population's genetic composition. Basically, a lot of people believe that the advertisement was racist. And as I was making this video, Gap just published a similar in style video about jeans, setting off what some are calling the Great Denim Ad War. It won't be clear until the dust settles to see the aftermath of what both of these ads mean to the zeitgeist, but as of right now, there seems to be a lot of positive feedback on the latest Gap ad. Now, American Eagle did make a statement trying to clarify the intent of that line, but there were a lot of people who are still very distraught over what they think took place. The debate about this advertisement was very, very prominent on my For You page, on my YouTube, on my TikTok, on my Instagram, having conversations about it with people in real life. This was a really, really big moment for 2025. But what's interesting, around the same time, you had a very well-received, highly celebrated advertisement by Ralph Lauren highlighting their Ralph Lauren Oak Bluffs campaign. Remember when I said Ralph Lauren is one of my favorite brands? It's because of campaigns like this. The campaign shocked a lot of people for several reasons, one of which is because most Americans don't know the story of Oak Bluffs. I know I really didn't. Not only does this collection show Black excellence through its portrayal of Black beauty, James Jeter, the creative director of the collection and Morehouse alumni, partnered with the families, local organizations, and town of Oak Bluffs to produce a documentary and screened it at the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival. The result was a visually gorgeous, thoughtful, truly community-based story, portraying what Ralph Lauren believes is a version of the American dream. When you think about 2025, what were the biggest events culturally for you? They could be from a social media standpoint, they could be in advertising, they could be political, or it could be something from traditional media. Speaking of impactful media, these were what I think were the most noteworthy pieces of media to come out in 2025. First is Sabrina Carpenter's Man's Best Friend, which also drew criticism for what some believed were its misogynistic undertones. The album cover depicts Carpenter in a hyper-sexualized way. Not unlike other imagery she has put out, the difference here is that there is so much just tiny, meant to get you kind of riled up symbolism that's taking place. The first thing that caught my mind was the title. Man's Best Friend has a double meaning, often referring to a pet. And when you look at the album cover specifically, her pose is very submissive looking in nature. And a lot of her music videos double down on this imagery. Some people think that this is Sabrina Carpenter and her team intentionally stirring up the pot to bring more attention and sales to the album, while others believe that this is an unhealthy portrayal of women in media. Regardless of what side you're on, this album rollout and the Sweeney American Eagle ad has put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths in regards to the current state of media and culture and just the ideas that are being presented at a high level. Let's take a breath. On a lighter note, K-pop Demon Slayers was arguably the hottest movie of 2025. Animated film. Hottest movie. The Netflix original highlights a K-pop group in Korea whose main goal is to seal away an ancient demon. I actually took the time to sit down and watch this film for this video, and I ended up enjoying the movie, I'm not gonna lie. And to me, it felt like a K-pop version of Frozen mixed with like a really cool anime, and it had a ton of catchy songs. Some of the songs were so catchy, in fact, that they made their way onto the Billboard Top 100 list. I think some of them even cracked top 10. And to me, like when I'm looking at consumer behavior and I'm looking at how people are interacting with different types of media and culture, K-pop Demon Slayer is another example of a Southeast Asian product. This time we're talking about Korea making noticeable waves within the Western world. Not just the Western world, but the world at large. I also like how the film honored Korean culture as well as K-pop fandom in a very earnest way. That was cool to see. When Brock Collier published an article titled "It Must Be Nice to Be a West Village Girl," it split the city of New York in half. On one side, you had those who were very furious about the cultural change of the West Village due to the emergence of influencer culture and affluence. And on the other side, you had those who believed the article was cherry-picking experiences and creating propaganda around certain groups of people in the city. It was a big moment in New York City. And for me, the coolest thing about this article was the fact that a traditional media source generated such a robust conversation for a younger audience. I can't remember the last time a web article had such a profound effect on the conversations taking place on my For You page. And not to be exclusionary, if you were in New York City, one of the biggest things that the article highlighted was the change of communities. Gentrification, the idea that people are coming in and pushing out culture and changing the nature of a city. It's a conversation that is taking place especially in New York City, but it's taking place in Denver, it's taking place in Los Angeles, it's taking place in Mumbai, it's taking place in parts of every corner of the globe. There's a conversation about gentrification. I was reading, or I saw the other day, that there was some article, I think it was in Spain, they were saying tourists go home because the nature of tourist culture has changed the livelihoods of so many people in popular European cities. I mean, it's the conversation of what culture is most important, or what is the thing that we value the most in the sub-blocks of a region of a city, is a huge, huge conversation, and it will continue to be. I used to think that fashion trends or being into trends was a bad thing, but I've come to realize that there's nothing innately wrong with following, being into, or liking trends. Especially from my point of view, I'm just very curious about how people decide to live their lives. And I know you are too, that's why you're watching this video. And when I think about my favorite moments from 2025, my favorite trends, or maybe just micro trends that took place in 2025, I have to include the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute deciding to highlight Black dandyism for this year's Met Gala. This year's theme of superfine tailoring Black style was the coolest theme of the Met Gala in my lifetime, hands down. And while, this year's Met Gala didn't really bring us any viral moments like 2023 did with Emma Chamberlain and Jack Harlow, the Met's emphasis on a style so near and dear to my heart was really special. Another standout moment for me was A$AP Rocky being appointed the creative director of Ray-Ban. Now, I have no idea what A$AP knows about sunglasses, but so far so good. Do you know how in Marvel there's the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it has all of these timelines and stories of all these different heroes taking place independently, but somehow they're all connected within the same timeline, or there's like multiverses and things like that, but like they're all connected in some way. I feel like for the current fashion world, we're living in our own version of the MCU. Call it the multi-fashion verse. There are so many corners of internet style, trends, and ideas that it's impossible to catalog them all. Yet we still have all of these mainstream things taking place and we all can observe them and connect with them. Now, this might not be a novel idea. There's always been niches and subcultures and macro trends and micro trends. But the difference now is that with social media, as social media has continued to grow, the culture exists in so many different ways for so many different people online. Like when I sit back and I think about social media and how long it's been around, it's still a very, very new concept to the history of humanity. And as the landscape of social media continues to progress, we will also continue to see the progression of this multi-fashion verse and these diverging ideas and niches and trends that are taking place in all these different parts of the world, but we'll have access to them in a new way visually because of social media. Let's bang out some rapid fire trends and items from 2025. First, 2025 was arguably the year of Pedro Pascal for Hollywood, both in good ways and bad ways. The good, he starred in so many iconic films and television shows. The bad, he was heavily criticized for his touchiness with co-star Vanessa Kirby. And I also think some people think that he's a Hollywood plant because how do you get so many leading roles in 1 year or in a series of years? Speaking of the film industry, nostalgia bait hit a new high in 2025. Nostalgia bait is the decision to use nostalgia as the primary way to sell a product to someone. Lilo and Stitch live action, the new Jurassic World movie, Superman, Freakier Friday are all versions of movies that are recycled ideas from the past, meant to evoke nostalgia for old audiences and new audiences alike. I think one trend that I didn't bring up earlier was the beaded bag trend for women's wear. This was super hot this summer. And I was looking at an early list of Billboard's top 50 songs for 2025, and I saw that Addison Rae's headphones is actually ranked higher than Drake's Nokia. That to me was fascinating. Addison Rae's transition from TikTok star to now music mogul is actually going much better than some of her other contemporaries. And I'm curious to hear what you think about this. Could Addison Rae be what Sabrina Carpenter was last year in 2024 to music, but could she be that for 2026? Let me put this into context for you. Obviously, Sabrina Carpenter is mega star, the pop star of pop stars. But when I look at Addison Rae's view counts on music videos that she's posted from the last 6 to 8 months, and I compare them with the view count of someone who's a seasoned veteran within the music industry, like Tyler, the Creator, you start to see how Addison's audience and momentum is climbing. Obviously, it's not at the level of Sabrina Carpenter, but there's something going on with the Addison Rae universe. 34 million followers on Instagram, but her engagement isn't as high as someone like Sabrina Carpenter, so that makes me think she's not as popular or not as doesn't have the same fandom. But Addison Rae, interesting development for 2025, and half of her songs are they're not half bad, honestly. Personally, I've been eating off of Larry June, 2 Chainz, The Alchemist, Life is Good. That has been my most listened to album of the year. And if Spotify does not show that, I'm going to be shocked. It's got to be Larry June, 2 Chainz, Life is Beautiful. There's no way to leave out the fact that Anna Wintour officially announced that she'd be stepping back from her role as editor-in-chief at Vogue. That is one of the biggest things to happen in fashion. You could argue that Anna Wintour was the most iconic figurehead at Vogue magazine. And her departure from the magazine is going to leave a massive gaping hole to fill. The TV show Severance that aired on Apple TV Plus and the movie Sinners by Ryan Coogler were 2 pieces of media that were dark horse trending stories for 2025. They're both examples of excellent ideas with critical acclaim, yet because there is so much competition, there's so much media, there's so many films, so many movies, so many videos coming out on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, that it's hard for new ideas to become or reach icon status. New ideas in film and television are rare. A lot of the films and TV shows that we're currently seeing are all remakes or, like I said, nostalgia bait. But I do think that Severance and Sinners will reach either cult classic, that'll be for maybe Sinners, and icon status, which Severance might be able to do at the end of its journey. It depends on how the story ends, but right now it's going really well. If you're in the know, then you know it was a Severance year and it was a sinner's year. What were some of the most notable standout trends to you for 2025? And should I make a part 2 highlighting what's happening or what is going to happen probably in the last half of the year? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity in 2025. So that means I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity to you and everyone who's alive. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful rest of your day. A bientôt. Peace. Yo, what is good? Post vid. Here are the fist bumps for the one time. Let me reach for it. Bop. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the video. Here's the second one. Bop. Thank you so much. For the post vid question of the day, hashtag PVV when you answer. Did you like the current landscape of trends for 2025? For me personally, I felt like there just wasn't anything that I was super had to eat up, super excited about. Obviously right now, everything is labubu, and I don't know, I'm not a labubu person. You know what I mean? It's just not my thing. See you guys in the next video. Peace.